Well, Trump has issued a new 10-day deadline for Iran before he destroys their energy plants. Yeah. Yeah, the extension is just to allow heaven to restock virgins. Yeah. They're running pretty low. Yeah, Iran has asked if we can sacrifice some male Kamala voters just to help restock. So big news out of Iran today. Trump issuing a new deadline. Brand new deadline just dropped. How about that? Here's Trump's tweet about it. As per Iranian government request, he always makes sure to mention that they are the ones begging him for the deal. He's not doing it on his own. He says, please let this statement serve to represent that I am pausing the period of energy plant destruction by 10 days to Monday, April 6th, 2026 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This sounds like a straight, hostage way he frames it, right? Of course, that's for maximum leverage. Talks are ongoing, and despite erroneous statements to the contrary by the fake news media and others, they are going very well. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I love how these sound just more and more like memos. It's got the vibe, but also just like an office memo, So how did we get here, right? It seemed like just a week ago, everyone was talking about Iran possibly turning into a forever war, and they didn't want that. I mean, we were in a war, right? And now we're not so much. Now we're in a negotiation. Do you see that? And that's the beauty of what Trump's done. I went into this in the last couple of shows, but basically, he created the framework for a negotiation to happen out of thin air. The thing about Trump is he sees that life is a negotiation, Something that I realized a while back, too. If you're looking at relationships, for instance, right? What are you doing when you're meeting a girl, right? What's the girl thinking about when she's sizing you up, right? She's to negotiate whether or not you're a good deal for her, whether you're a good deal for them, right? That's a negotiation. Jobs are a negotiation. Pretty much everything in life can be reframed as a negotiation, right? So what did he do when he wasn't able to negotiate with Iran? Well, he comes out and this was over the weekend, he issues this big ultimatum to them, right? We need to get to the negotiating table, and they need to accept the deal that I'm offering them, or I'm going to destroy their power plants. They have 48 hours to respond, right? So out of nowhere, he creates this imaginary leverage that did not exist before, this threat to destroy their power plants, which would obviously be a huge escalation. Now, Iran responds, right? They issue their own threats of their own. They come back. He walks it back, right? And he says, okay, now I'm in contact with them. We're negotiating. They're rejecting the deal that I'm offering, but I'm going to give them an extension. I think he made it 5 days initially, right? And there was this whole news he issued, out and rejected this 15-point proposal from the U.S., calling it excessive. So what's happened there? Basically, these Iranian leaders went from a position of being, we're in a war, we have to fight to the death, we need to run in and just kamikaze style, basically suicide ourselves to try to do something, to a position of, no, that deal's not good enough, we're going to reject the offer, right? It's too excessive. So Trump effectively made them think past the sale, which was we're in negotiations, all right? This is the same thing that he did with tariffs, right? And no matter how many times he does it, the media will always come out initially and go, oh my God, it's crazy. He issued a 48-hour ultimatum and he's doing that. How could he ever think this will work? And then suddenly, what do you get? Just like he did with the tariffs, right? He comes out with a big opening bid, freaks people out, right? He gives a deadline, but then he extends it once they're more willing to talk. So now he's got Iran apparently in a position where they're now in a negotiation. And so he's giving them 10 more days to essentially work it out. What's helping him a little bit more than tariffs, so with tariffs, the leverage that he uses is financial, right? Let me pull up the chat too while I'm here. It's basically, we're going to penalize you with these financial incentives unless you make concessions to the U.S. that he wants, right? I don't know where the chat is. Maybe it's gone. Chat. I don't know if I could pull it. Okay, we'll start now. But in this case, the leverage that he's creating is we're going to kill you, right? Bombs, which is a lot tougher to deal with. This was Trump. He was talking about the Iranian leaders. I think this was on Fox maybe earlier today. And he was saying, we're going to hold off on killing the rest of them. We know where they're at, but we're going to hold off on killing them for now. How's that for negotiation?
They then named another one. We knocked them out, and we knocked out part of the third group. And we're just holding for the rest. We know where they all are. And it's one country that does not want to be, you have very few people want to be the leader. You know, to be president of the United States, everyone wants to be president or whatever, prime minister of a certain country. There are not a lot of takers to be the head of Iran right now. I will tell you, they're all fighting not to. We don't want that position. But they asked me if they would, Kaylee, importantly, they said to me,
imagine that job ad on Iranian Craigslist. Seeking new Ayatollah. Very temporary position. Starting pay low. We're out of oil money.
Nicely through my people. Could we have more time? Because we're talking about tomorrow night, which is pretty out. They then named another one. We knocked them out, and we knocked out part of the third.
That's crazy. So, yeah, I mean, this is more of a, I'll at least pull up the data on the TikTok here, as more of like a hostage, right? How did we go from Iran was the country that took hostages to now we're taking the entire country of Iran hostage, essentially, right? This was in a fall on Twitter earlier today. Oh, let me pull it over here. Shit. Every time I mess with a TikTok, it messes up my technology. Give me one sec. Okay. He's got a good visual representation of kind of all the forces that we've deployed over to the Middle East currently. I don't know what's going on with this video, just cool stuff maybe. But this is what we've got. So part of the speculation here too is we just read that the 82nd Airborne has been deployed. Those are the parachuting troops to the Middle East. So the speculation here is that Trump is either preparing to invade and take hold of Karg Oilan, which is their big oil export center in Iran, or he's just building up assets that can move quickly in the event he needs to use them. In any case, here's a good image of what we recently moved over there, okay? So you got 4,200 troops and a brigade combat team, second, third, so that's about 12 to 13,000 that are brigades. Combat aviation brigades, division artillery, sustainment brigades, reconnaissance, air defenses, intelligence. Got the parachuting troops, 3 battalions of that. Maybe that's the brigade he's talking. Oh, I guess those are the parachuters up here. So the thing about the parachuting troops is if you were going to respond very quickly to a situation as it's evolving, let's say Iran takes a foothold somewhere along the Strait of Hormuz and cuts stuff off, those parachuting troops can go behind enemy lines. They can drop in. They're designed to move and be deployed within 18 hours of notice. They go in, they get in there, they get a stake, and they knock out any enemies, right? And they make it easier for ground troops to actually get in there and invade. So he's got a bunch of options on the table. He's got leverage. We just heard today, the Navy responsible for closing the Strait of Hormuz, no longer with us. No elite Navy chief responsible for closing the Strait of Hormuz, killed in an airstrike. And if the reports about the new Ayatollah being gay are true, he was just trying to keep something straight in Iran. He was trying to do something good for his people. I'm going to pepper in jokes throughout this thing since I didn't write any. I wrote one. Get little ad hoc jokes. Pretty crazy, though. Killed in an airstrike, so... what do we got here? Oh, this was another weird piece of news from today. Apparently, Iran has lowered the age of enlistment. I don't know if it's enlistment, but IRGC says it's lowered the minimum age for war-related support roles to 12 years old. And then there's this person on Twitter saying, not typically a sign that things are going great if you're enlisting to help with the fight. It's got a community note on it. I don't know if I want to read it. Probably somebody's like, this isn't true. Conscription, yeah, but supporting roles. So I could see that being open. Trump did a presser today. So he's been dropping some big pressers recently where he just drops quotes. They're canon. So no pun intended. Here was Trump dropping a quote today about the supreme leader saying he's not so supreme, as it turns out.
Then I said, well, now we have to take an excursion to Iran and we have to stop this maniac who's no longer with us. The supreme leader wasn't so supreme, no longer with us. It's very sad. But we have to stop him from...
Wasn't so supreme, as it turns out. He's doing his own ad hoc jokes there. He's throwing in a bit of stand-up in the middle of talking about murdering a rival dictator of a country, right? I shouldn't have said rival dictator. Now the Democrats will run with that. We knew it! He's also been, he keeps stating over and over again that they're begging to make a deal. It's not him. They're the ones coming to him. Here's him talking about that.
It's a record straight because I've been watching the Wall Street Journal's fake news and all these stories that get printed like, oh, I want to make it. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw what was happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. But they say, oh, we're not talking to them. Anybody would know that. And only a total fool. And they're not fools. They're very smart, actually, in a certain way.
Here's how Trump characterizes what the media would characterize as the Iran war, the forever war. He says we had to take a little detour. Maybe underplaying it a little bit, to be fair. Let's hear him discuss it.
The most investment of any country in history has been put into our country in the last year. And again, we had to take a little detour. Won't be long. Going to end soon. We had to take a little detour, go to Iran, and we had to put out a fire. Very dangerous fire that could have blown up big portions of the world, if not the whole thing.
It's kind of funny the way that he describes it. I like that he's also just managing public perception of everything and managing the markets and the world economy as he's fighting wars, right? It's probably just his TV career he's probably just got a very good always on sort of radar for how they're going to run with things, kind of. But he point, which was essentially we had to put out a fire that maybe it wasn't burning today, but at some point was going to do damage to not just us, but the rest of the world, right? Is that true? J.D. Vance had an interesting take on it earlier today. He's talking about how, Iran already had the people running into buildings with suicide vests, blowing themselves up. Well, what happens when they get the technology to strap a nuclear weapon to a suicide vest, right? Or just a bigger bomb. Right, here's him talking about it here.
I think options. I think it's important the American people know options for what? And it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on, and they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest is not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president is doing this. That's why the president cares so much about this particular issue. When I say
almost like if people are crazy and they don't care about their own lives, you should remove them from society, right? We'll get into in a little bit here. We had the New York City incident where another crazy pushed veteran into a sub, right? Again, just another fire that's burning, and at some point will come to get you, right?